Hey again, everyone. Brick City Brown Chick coming at you for this week's short. And I want to talk about a subject that has gotten a lot of coverage the last 10 days since the new administration came into power. And I want to talk about it not on the micro level that it's been talked about, but I want to talk about it from what we call a 30,000-foot view, which is more the big picture. And that is the subject of the mass deportations by the new administration. The conversations I have heard online mostly consist of arguments back and forth between Hispanic people and Black American people about whether this is a subject Black people should care about. And I have heard a lot of Black people say, we're sitting this one out. This is not our fight. These are not our people. And when you first hear that, it sounds very harsh. And it sounds very like, if it's not happening to me, I don't give a crap. And unfortunately, that's a pretty American feeling about a lot of subjects. But that's not what this is about. There is a very complex history between Black people in America and Hispanic people in America. A lot of Black people feel that Hispanic immigrants in particular come to America and work as hard as they can to ingratiate themselves, or whatever word you want to use, with white people. That they are much more, the term I've heard this week is white adjacent. In other words, they look a lot more like white people than Black people do. And therefore, white people are much more accepting of them. Now, there's a lot of evidence to show that that's not true, but if that's how people feel, that's how people feel. I've heard a lot of Black content creators this week essentially say, don't ask Black people for anything. We needed unity and solidarity on November 4th. That's when we needed it. And that's not what we received from the Hispanic community. Hispanic men voted for this new administration by 55 to 45, and nearly 40% of Hispanic women voted for the current president. So Black people feel very much angry, abandoned, manipulated, all sorts of things in that wheelhouse. And they feel like, we are not going to get involved in this. If you, as a Hispanic person, voted for the person who is now deporting your family members, you reap what you sow. Like, this is what happens. And again, I realize that sounds incredibly harsh, but from the people I've talked to, Black people are kind of up to here with not being supported, not being heard, not being appreciated, always being the scapegoat for everything, and not listening or appreciating what we have to say. Now, I said earlier that the if it's not happening to me, I don't give a crap attitude is very much an American attitude. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm going to use the example of medical conditions. Many years ago now, there was a senator from North Carolina named Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms was a notorious bigot and racist and just not a good guy. And he used to vote in the Senate against all kinds of health related issues. He would vote against improving health care for women, for people of color. He would vote against grants for AIDS research because he had an attitude that people who got AIDS, this was God's punishment, that whole crazy nonsense. So he just had a reputation as being a real piece of work. So he took those stances on medical conditions for many years until one day he had a heart attack. And all of a sudden, he cared about health research into heart conditions and what happened to people. But that was only because it happened to him. And that's just one specific example. There are thousands of examples like that in American, both political history and American history in general. And the problem is when people feel like it's not happening to me, so it doesn't affect me, so I don't care, that is when all kinds of crazy, evil things are done to people. From our current times, the best example I can give is people and their feelings about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I have never found those three words controversial or painful or giving off a vibe that it's going to take away from anyone else, but that is how it's now been painted. That America shouldn't be about diversity, shouldn't be about equity, and shouldn't be about inclusion. That we should all just get along and treat each other the same, and there don't need to be laws to protect certain people from certain other people because we don't need that anymore, which is complete and total bullshit. I'm just going to say that like it is. These laws were passed for a reason. And people always want to make the argument that the 1950s and 60s were 70 and 80 years ago. And that's true. However, the bar I always use is my mother is 90 years old. And if something has happened in her lifetime, it wasn't that long ago. And the truth is, the civil rights movement was not that long ago. I realize it seems like a long time ago for people who are 40 something or 30 something. I am 50 something. I was not born when the civil rights movement was in full swing. But I have studied enough to understand why it was necessary and why it is still necessary. The next 4 years in American history are going to make or break our country. We are 10 days into this new administration, and I feel very strongly that America is going to get broken in the next 4 years. That there is just going to come a point where people throw up their hands and go, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to participate in it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to handle it because I'm sick as a woman or a person of color or a gay person or a transgendered person. I am sick of being attacked. I am sick of it. And what I've said over the last couple of weeks is I hope this wakes people, especially young people who think fights have been fought and won and they don't need to worry about it anymore. I hope this wakes them up to the fact that no matter how long ago you earned your rights, or your parents earned them, or your grandparents earned them, there is always someone ready and waiting to take them away from you. And that's the fundamental problem with people not caring about situations that don't involve them. There's a really profound saying from World War II that I won't quote exactly, but I'll give you the gist of it. It goes, when they came for the Catholics, I didn't care because I wasn't Catholic. When they came for the mentally challenged people, I didn't care because I was not mentally challenged. When they came for the Jews, I didn't care because I wasn't Jewish. And when they came for me, there was no one left to care. And that is really what we face as a country right now. I understand profoundly the anger and the frustration of Black people because I feel it myself. It's not a they problem or a they concern, it's an us concern. I understand why Black people feel like, done. You know what? This is what you voted for. Reap what you sow. This is what you wanted. So deal with it, live with it. It has nothing to do with us. Don't ask us anything because we warned you, we told you, we begged you, and you still voted against your own interests. So don't even look at us. I understand that feeling, I do. But this country is not going to survive the assault on immigrants, on people of color, on women, unless we all start giving a damn about people that aren't us and about situations that don't involve us. Because if all we ever care about is ourselves and what happens to us, everything around us is going to come crashing down. That is what I have to share with you this week. I want to thank you for joining me. If you are new here, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please subscribe. There's a button down here somewhere for you to subscribe. And I will see you all again next week. Take care.